What is going on in the world? Well, those Arabs are being racist again. What up, guys? I am Sa Ra Garvey. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe as we get into this one. Now, for those who know and for those who don't, I for many years have attempted to document the racism that goes on within the Arab world specifically. Why? Because I think it's a type of racism that first of all isn't spoken about, and second of all is actually denied more so than Eurocentric or Euro colonization type racism. The president of Tunisia has made a racist speech, fueling tensions between Arabs and black people within Tunisia. What did he say? President's racist speech incites a wave of violence against black Africans. Tunisian authorities should ensure an immediate end to the wave of attacks against black African migrants across Tunisia, which started in early February and accelerated following racist and xenophobic comments made by President Kais Saied on the 21st of February, Amnesty International said today. The authorities must investigate and hold perpetrators to account, including, in particular, where police officers were involved in the assault. They should release arbitrarily detained migrants and ensure that they are not involuntarily returned. Now, for many, this may come as a surprise, but for me, it does not. Why? Because I have studied the racism in North Africa for a very, very long time. For us to get a more well-rounded view of the racism and the colonization and the colonist mindset that goes on there, we are going to have to go back into the history of how the Arabs came into Africa. Now, a lot of people talk about colonization, and I have spoken about it before, but normally we talk about it within the context of Europe. We talk about how Europe colonized Africa. However, 800 years before Europe colonized Africa, the Arab Muslim came into North Africa and colonized Africa, raping, robbing, pillaging, enslaving. Don't believe me? Let's have a look.
The Arab conquest of North Africa, was that a form of colonization?
Absolutely. That the Arab conquest of North Africa was a form of colonization that took place in the 7th century when Arab Muslims burst out of Saudi Arabia and conquered Egypt and went on to conquer the whole of North Africa. There were a lot of Berber tribes there. The Egyptian Copts were the original indigenous of the land, as well as the Berbers. And they were all conquered and Islamized and Arabized. That was also a form of colonization, definitely.
Now, do Muslims today acknowledge this? Are they self-critical about this?
Not to the extent that the West has become very critical. In fact, many Muslims don't even admit that there was any form of colonization.
The first colonizer of Africa and the first enslaver, and also the current enslaver of African people, is actually the Muslim Arab. I have done a 3-part series on this before, maybe around 3-4 years ago, documenting this, which caused a stir. And I'm going to say this. Everything that I say today comes from a factual basis. If you do not like what I say today, then that is not my concern. My concern are the facts. The facts are there to just be the facts. They're not there to make you happy, sad, or angry. If you cannot deal with factual information, then I'm sorry, this is not the channel for you. Because many people, just like when I done my 3-part series years ago, were upset and angry that I was attacking a faith, that I was attacking a religion, all of this stuff. And the bottom line is, I couldn't care what people think. I care about the facts. And if you can't handle factual information, again, please Do not tune into this channel. Do not listen to what I say. Go elsewhere. The Arab-Muslim slave trade, also known as the Trans-Saharan trade or Eastern slave trade, is noted as the longest slave trade, having occurred for more than 13,000 years while taking millions of Africans away from their continent to work in foreign lands in the most inhumane conditions. Scholars have christened it the veiled genocide, attributing to the tagline to the most humiliating and near-death experiences slaves were subjected to, from capture in slave markets to labor fields abroad and the harrowing journey in between. While the official figures on the exact number of slaves captured from Africa in the Trans-Sahara slave trade are contested, most scholars put the estimate at about 9 million. The Arabs raided sub-Saharan Africa for 13 centuries without interruption. Most of the millions of men they deported have disappeared as a result of inhumane treatment. This painful page in the history of black peoples has apparently not been completely turned. Read a loosely translated excerpt from The Veiled Genocide, a book by Tidiane Ndeye, a Franco-Senegalese author and anthropologist. Enterprising Arab merchants and middlemen would gather in Zanzibar for raw materials including cloves and ivory. They would then buy black slaves who they would use to carry the raw materials and also work in their plantations abroad. Slaves from as far as Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia would be availed at the Zanzibar market and shipped through the Indian Ocean to the Persian Gulf or Arab Peninsula, where they worked in Oman, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. African Muslims were, however, never captured as slaves due to the Islamic legal views. So what does that mean? That means that Arab Muslims, have a history of racism. Racism towards black peoples. And now you have a president in North Africa, an Arab president, making racist speeches towards black people.
For 26-year-old Nebras, February has marked a turn for black Tunisians. She's just graduated from university and works as a waitress, and believes President Kais Saied's anti-migrant rhetoric has given a green light to racism.
There are people who asked me what I was still doing here, that these people were killing people. Some stopped me in the middle of the street and told me to leave, to go away.
It was last month that Saied launched into a tirade against sub-Saharan migrants in Tunisia. He claimed migrants were behind most crime in the country and that a criminal plot was underway to change Tunisia's demographic makeup.
Black Tunisians are really collateral victims of the president's speech, because the speech was not aimed at black skin. It was aimed at sub-Saharan migrants, the migration context, undocumented migrants, etc. But obviously, they're collateral victims of this discourse.
The comments have fueled a flurry of attacks and evictions. Hundreds of West Africans have even flown back to their origin country out of fear of being targeted. Sadia has been helping provide necessities to the most vulnerable among them, many of whom recently found themselves without work or housing. But she also worries that black Tunisians could be next. We are a visible and stigmatized population. Today, the fear is that we are targeted, because the first step is sub-Saharans. The fear is step 2 will be black Tunisians. Black Tunisians make up about 10 to 15% of the country's 12 million people. President Saied has rejected accusations that he's stoking racism, saying his comments were misinterpreted by his opponents.
Racism is spoken about very generally in the West. It is spoken about to the point where I actually believe that the conversation about racism and race needs to be had in the West and can maybe be had if people are mature enough to sit down and have the conversation. However, when it comes to the Arab world, that does not look like it is on the horizon anytime soon. The Arab world is in denial about its historical racism and also its current racism towards black peoples. On this planet, currently, right now, there is only one place where you can buy black peoples as slaves, and that is in the Muslim Arab world. Also, when it comes to the abolition of slavery, the Arab world were very late in abolishing slavery. Mauritania, in fact, another North African country that was colonized by Arabs, only outlawed slavery in 2000. Arabs generally like to complain about the colonization in North Africa of France and how France had them colonized. There was French Algeria, French Morocco, and French Tunisia. However, they never speak about the fact that they themselves as Arabs colonized black people. Now, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So if Arabs are going to complain about the French colonizing them, then shouldn't they care about colonizing African people? Well, it doesn't seem that they do care. Racist attacks by mobs after the president's incitement. Witnesses described to Amnesty International how after the president's speech, Tunisian men, sometimes armed with batons and knives, had taken to the streets of the capital and attacked them or raided their houses. On the 24th of February, Manuela D, 22, a Cameroonian asylum seeker, was stabbed in the chest, causing horrific injuries. She was attacked by a group of 6 men who shouted racist insults at her. She told Amnesty International that she was in Ariana neighborhood in Tunis, outside a cafe, when she felt a violent blow on her neck. She fell on the ground and heard voices shouting in French, "Go back home, you gang of blacks, we don't want you here." Are these types of stories being shown in mainstream media? I don't think they are. And I think one of the reasons why they aren't being shown in mainstream media is because mainstream media are heavily invested in showing this region or this religion as a religion of peace, or these people as peaceful people, or sometimes they are the victims of French colonization. You show these people in boats off the shores of the coast, you know, just trying to get into a country and trying to maintain a good life and trying to be helped. However, they're not showing this side of the nations in which they come from. They are not showing the racism and the inherent racism that exists as part of something that has been going on for 1,300 years. President Said's discriminatory and hateful remarks during a national security meeting on the 21st of February triggered an upsurge in anti-black racist violence, with mobs taking to the streets and attacking black migrants, students and asylum seekers, police officers detaining and deporting scores. President Said said that hordes of irregular migrants from sub-Saharan Africa had come to Tunisia with all the violence, crime and unacceptable practices that entails. I have been reporting on this for years, and I am wondering when Arabs and Arab Muslims are actually going to get real and actually going to deal with this. I believe that the denial of all of this and acting as if, no, we're all fine, you know, because we're Muslim brothers, is actually going to feed fuel to the fire and make something that doesn't need to be as big huge. Okay, you can stop this if you take time out to be realistic and address the racism that exists within your countries, within your nations, within your communities when it comes towards black peoples. I have been Sa Ra Garvey. Thank you all for tuning in. Please like, share, comment and subscribe on your way out as we keep asking what is going on in the world. I'm going to be here to document it, and I'm going to be here to talk factual information and give you the real. So thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to catch you on the flip side.